Carrie-Anne Moss exists in a rare category of modern performers, instantly recognizable, culturally iconic, and yet quietly resistant to celebrity as an identity. For many actors, a single career-defining role becomes either a lifelong anchor or a professional cage. Moss turned hers into something else entirely, a starting point rather than a destination. While the world remembers Trinity in slow motion, suspended mid-air in black leather, Moss has spent the decades since asking a more enduring question: how do you live meaningfully after the spotlight finds you? To understand her career is not just to track film credits, but to observe a philosophy in motion. Moss's professional life reflects an ongoing dialogue between success and selfhood, between visibility and inner alignment. She is an actor who stepped into global fame without letting it dictate her values, and that choice, quiet, unglamorous, deeply human, is what makes her story endure. Carrie-Anne Moss was born on August 21st, 1967, in Burnaby, British Columbia, far from Hollywood's mythology machine. Raised primarily by her mother after her parents divorced, she grew up in an environment where independence was not a buzzword but a necessity. There was no inherited industry access, no early pipeline into fame, only a gradual discovery of discipline, movement, and self-expression. Her earliest artistic foundation came through dance. Ballet and contemporary dance shaped not only her physical abilities but her way of thinking. Dance teaches restraint, spatial awareness, and emotional clarity without words. It also teaches humility. Progress is slow. Perfection is unattainable. Control and surrender coexist. These lessons would later become central to Moss's screen presence, even when audiences couldn't quite articulate why she felt different from other action stars. As a teenager, Moss joined a musical theatre tour that travelled through Europe. This experience mattered more than it might appear on paper. Performing night after night under changing conditions instilled stamina, professionalism, and a respect for the craft as labour rather than fantasy. It also exposed her to cultural difference, an early reminder that art is contextual, shaped by audience and environment. When Moss eventually moved into acting, first in Toronto and later Los Angeles, her early career followed a familiar but discouraging pattern: guest television roles, short-term contracts. Like many actors, she found herself auditioning constantly while inching toward financial uncertainty. There was no guarantee of momentum. In fact, there was very little evidence that perseverance would be rewarded at all. This period is essential to understanding Moss because it grounded her expectations. She did not emerge into fame believing it was owed to her. She arrived knowing how easily it could disappear. By the mid-1990s, as she approached 30, Moss faced a quiet but pivotal reckoning, one many performers never admit publicly. Was this career sustainable? Was the industry truly interested in what she had to offer, or only in a narrow projection of her image? These questions lingered just as she auditioned for a strange, unconventional science fiction script with an unfamiliar tone and an even more unfamiliar ambition. That script became The Matrix. At the time, The Matrix was not the cultural certainty it would later become. It was a risk, philosophically dense, visually experimental, and uninterested in reassuring audiences. Moss was drawn not to its potential success, but to Trinity herself, a woman defined by competence, conviction, and internal authority. Trinity did not explain herself. She moved with purpose. She trusted her own understanding of the world even when it contradicted appearances. That trust is what Moss brought to the role. Her background in dance translated seamlessly into the film's demanding physical language. Trinity's movements are economical, deliberate, almost meditative. Every gesture feels intentional. In the film's now legendary opening sequence, Moss establishes Trinity not through dialogue, but through control of space, of speed, of stillness. It was a declaration: this character does not exist to decorate the story. She is the story. When The Matrix was released in 1999, its impact was immediate and seismic. The film reshaped cinematic language, but it also reshaped audience expectations of female power on screen. Trinity was not exceptional because she was a woman. She was exceptional, full stop. That distinction mattered. It quietly dismantled assumptions without announcing itself as a manifesto. Overnight, Moss became globally recognizable, and yet something unusual happened next. She did not chase replication. The sequels, The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, expanded Trinity's emotional terrain, allowing Moss to explore vulnerability without diminishing strength. Trinity's love for Neo did not reduce her autonomy. It deepened her humanity. Moss played these moments with restraint, avoiding sentimentality in favor of grounded connection. connection. After the trilogy concluded, Moss stood at a crossroads familiar to many breakout stars. She could have leveraged her image into a steady stream of high-budget action roles. Instead, she chose complexity over consistency. Her role in Christopher Nolan's Memento was a deliberate pivot. The film demanded ambiguity, moral uncertainty, and psychological precision. Moss's character, Natalie, operates in shifting layers of truth and manipulation. The performance required trust in subtlety and actors' willingness to let silence and contradiction speak. Memento became a critical landmark, reinforcing Moss's reputation as an actor drawn to intellectual risk rather than formula. Throughout the 2000s, Moss gravitated toward independent films and character studies. These projects often lacked mass visibility, but they offered something more durable: emotional honesty. In Snow Cake, her portrayal of a grieving mother unfolds without theatrical excess. Pain exists in pauses, in unfinished sentences, in the physical weight of loss. It is the kind of performance that resists spectacle and therefore lasts longer in the mind. This pattern reveals something crucial about Moss's philosophy of work. She does not appear motivated by dominance within the industry, but by dialogue with it. She engages selectively, choosing projects that ask questions rather than offer easy affirmation. Television eventually became another space where this approach flourished. Her role as Jerry Hogarth in Jessica Jones marked one of the most compelling reinventions of her career. Hogarth is brilliant, ruthless, vulnerable, and deeply flawed. Moss embraced the character's moral ambiguity without apology. There is no attempt to redeem Hogarth into likability. Instead, Moss allows her to exist as a study in power, fear, and self-preservation. What makes this performance remarkable is not just its sharpness, but its timing. Moss entered serialized television at a moment when the medium had evolved into a space for sustained character exploration. The role demonstrated that longevity in acting does not require reinvention through spectacle, but through depth. In 2021, Moss returned to Trinity in The Matrix Resurrections. This was not a nostalgic rehash, but a reflective re-engagement with the franchise's ideas. The film interrogated memory, identity, and the commodification of legacy itself. Moss approached Trinity not as an icon frozen in time, but as a woman rediscovering herself after fragmentation. Her performance carried the weight of lived experience. This was not youth performing intensity, but maturity reclaiming agency. Trinity's arc became central, not supplementary, to the narrative's emotional resolution. Whatever one's interpretation of the film, Moss's presence grounded it in sincerity rather than irony. Outside of acting, Moss's personal choices further clarify her values. Married since 1999 and a mother of 3, she has consistently prioritized family presence over career acceleration. In an industry that rewards constant availability, this decision represents a quiet rebellion. Moss has spoken openly about stepping back during her children's early years, not as sacrifice, but as alignment. This inward orientation extends to her philosophical interests. Meditation, mindfulness, and Eastern thought are not branding tools for Moss, they are practices. Her lifestyle platform, Annapurna Living, reflects an attempt to articulate a slower, more intentional relationship with creativity and success. Rather than offering prescriptions, it invites reflection. Critically, Moss does not position herself as an authority dispensing wisdom. She speaks as someone still asking questions. This humility distinguishes her voice in a cultural moment often dominated by certainty. Her relationship with fame has always been cautious. She acknowledges its benefits without confusing them for meaning. In interviews, Moss consistently separates recognition from fulfillment. Acting, for her, is not an identity that consumes everything else. It is a mode of exploration, one expression among many. Culturally, Moss's legacy is inseparable from Trinity, but it is not confined to her. Trinity helped recalibrate how strength, femininity, and intelligence could coexist on screen. Moss's subsequent career reinforced that representation is not static, it requires continuation, expansion, and contradiction. What ultimately defines Carrie-Anne Moss is not the role she accepted, but the one she declined. She resisted becoming a symbol trapped in repetition. Instead, she cultivated a career marked by discernment. Her performances are often defined by stillness, by presence rather than volume. This restraint, rooted in her dance training, gives her work a gravity that transcends genre. Whether in science fiction, drama, or television, Moss brings a sense of internal coherence. Characters feel lived in rather than performed. In an industry obsessed with reinvention, Moss offers an alternative model: evolution through integrity. She remains relevant not because she chases relevance, but because she allows her work to deepen alongside her life. That depth, earned slowly, deliberately, is what keeps audiences returning, even decades later. Carrie-Anne Moss did not merely survive a defining role. She absorbed it, learned from it, and then moved forward on her own terms. And in doing so, she left behind something rarer than fame: the blueprint for longevity rooted in self-knowledge.